Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Healing the Parent Wound. I'm here with Tammy Chow, and today we're going to be talking about healing the mother wound. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump right in by just asking you if you could introduce yourself to the audience. Just let us know who you are, what you do, how you help people.
Yeah, I'm Tammy. You might know me from Instagram. I'm Somatic Spirit, and my background is I'm an SEP, so somatic experiencing practitioner, as well as attachment practitioner and body temple dance facilitator, and I work with women mostly on embodied awakening. So getting back into the body, kind of repatterning some of those really old, young attachment wounds so that we can really show up more as who we truly are, which is like underneath the mask, underneath the
Mhm.
perfectionism and the people pleasing, so that we can like really land into who we came here to be on this earth.
Yes, I love that. I'm hearing so much about authenticity and finding your true self, and also that very important embodied piece, which we talk about a lot here. Getting out of the head and into the body is so important for healing trauma. So I'm so glad that you're
Totally.
doing what you're doing in the world and helping people that way.
Thank you.
So let's start talking about this healing the mother wound. And I wanted to just get an idea of, because I know this is something that you've healed from as well. And I wanted to get an idea from you of, you know, what was your relationship like with your mother when you were growing up?
Yeah. Well, and then also I would like to say healing. I don't know that it ever ends. Maybe it gets to
Yeah.
some plateaus, but yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
a new stage of healing right now with it. But growing up, it was confusing, and I talk about it a lot because I think sometimes, um, a lot of times we have such loyalty to our mothers. They're our first parent, they're our primary provider. We come out of their bodies. And so it's confusing because growing up, I thought that my attachment to her, like she was the good parent, because my dad was the one who struggled with alcoholism. But then I made myself very polite, perfect, poised, like I needed to just be convenient and like exactly what she needed me to be, or else she would blow up. It would be like stonewalling for 3 weeks at a time or rage outbursts. And then I would kind of like hold myself up in my room and only tiptoe around the house just to get meals. And so it felt actually, looking back, there was a lot of walking around on eggshells. And during the times that we have moved closer into connection on our healing journey, she kind of did some self reflection, and she admitted that she got bullied when she first immigrated to the US from China. And she got bullied by the other Chinese kids who were born in America. And she calls them the ABCs, the American born Chinese kids. And
Mhm.
so she saw me as that. She was like, oh, well, I always thought you were like that, bitch. I mean, she's very
Mm.
sassy with her mouth. So, and
Yeah.
then she's like, I always thought that you were one of those. So I just treated you like that. And of course, she didn't have the same emotional tools or awareness or whatever as we do now. But, for me looking back, it's like, oh, that's the bullying that's being passed down, where she, kind of always made really hurtful comments and snide remarks whenever I would go up to her with an achievement or an excitement about something, and it would just feel like really put out and smothered. And that, was just like a byproduct of her not knowing that she's passing on this trauma and kind of bullying me as the American born Chinese kid that bullied her. And so that was kind of our dynamic of like really close, really close, really close. And it's like she would give me love conditionally when I was the perfect little girl. And then when I wanted my own authenticity, or like there was no space for me to have preferences or rage or anything. And that was like very disorienting and kind of created
Mhm.
a disorganized attachment style that I
Mhm.
have in relationships, or I had.
Mhm. Yeah, oh my goodness. So much of what you're saying I can relate to, and I know that people watching will relate to as well. I also have the immigrant mother experience, not exactly the way you're describing it, but it just adds an extra dimension to that relationship that is sometimes hard to understand, you know? When you're the one who's born in the new country, you kind of have this um, chasm between yourself and your parent. There are certain things that you don't understand about their experience. And I also
Mm.
wanted to comment on the honesty of your mother to tell you that that's why she did what she did. There's some vulnerability there, which I'm sure likely helped heal or start healing that wound. So that's interesting
Yeah.
too, because I know a lot of mothers will not admit to anything. So I got to give her some credit there. And
Yeah.
yeah, the cruelty and only mom's feelings are allowed. Your feelings weren't allowed. Only mom's feelings were allowed. That's also a common theme I hear about. So thank you so much for sharing that because I think when helpers or healers like yourself share what they went through as well, it really helps people understand that they're not alone. And even more importantly, you can get through this because you did, right?
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So when did you start healing this mother wound?
Um, I just wanted to say something on what you said. Like, I was recently at a family constellations retreat, and um, I think one of the facilitators was like, "Yeah, whenever anybody has a mother wound, and by the way, there's like no one in the world that I know at all that doesn't,
Right.
you know?"
Exactly.
And so, like, yes, we're definitely not alone, and just wanting to reiterate that, normalize
Mhm.
it. Um,
Mhm.
it started changing when she was actually diagnosed with lung cancer maybe 7 or 8 years ago now. And I had like done a 180 with my life, going from like escaping with partying, drinking, drugs, my bulimia, like all of the aftermath of leaving home and then going to college. And then I had moved to LA, and I'd gotten really like clean with my food, started healing my own stuff. And so when she was sick with cancer, it was like something shifted in that it softened her trauma responses, because I think she was faced with possibly leaving this earth. And
Mhm.
so she softened, and it actually allowed me space to step in as an authority to be like, these are the things that I'm learning about nutrition and the body and illness and cancer that we aren't, that doctors don't tell you at the time, right? Like doctors don't tell you, like, maybe don't eat sugar, don't change, like all the things that we kind of know now. And so that was a huge time when I was actually allowed to like help her and actually
Mhm.
start to do the healing work with her. And maybe because I was so triggered into that mode, because I might lose her, like I actually like stepped into my authority. And so that was a huge healing time between us, because at least we could start to bond on like the body healing, and she was starting to listen to me. And
Mhm.
then after that went into remission, thankfully. And I think there was a period of time then she like kind of went back to her harsh ways of communicating. And it's like really, like sometimes she can just be really cutting, like it's almost like stabbing you in the heart and twisting the knife, like knowing exactly what to say to be hurtful. And I think that was when I was in my own somatic experiencing journey, starting to do the somatic work and learning like what's not okay, learning how to set boundaries. And that was when I took to kind of like emailing like what I felt after those big blowups, because she can't listen like ever in those, she's like on her like fight response. And then I also I also like just like sent her books and things that I'm lucky that she did read some of them, like nonviolent communication. And mainly nonviolent communication was a huge one that really helped her understand that the way she communicated was pretty violent um,
Mhm.
in today's day and age, and really hurtful. And so that was like a really good period of our healing. So that was kind of when it started.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's such a beautiful story. And that the kind of role reversal where you were able to help your mother finally and to have her respond by actually reading what you sent her is really amazing. I love to hear that. And it doesn't always happen that way. So it really shows that if you have someone who's receptive, that there is a chance, right? So that's really beautiful.
Well, I
What are some of the tools that helped you start healing your relationship and your communication with your mom?
yeah, this might fall into tools too, but like her receptivity was also, I think, a lot because I made sure to tell her like that I'm telling you these things because I want to be closer to you. I want to teach you these things and share these things because I want a closer relationship with you rather than a painful one. Um, so that's an important thing to note because I think other than me constantly reiterating that, I don't think the response would have been as open. But then for myself, like really starting to uncouple like the pain and shame and guilt and all the emotions mixed in with just healing the mother wound on my side was really somatic experiencing and then attachment repatterning, which Diane Poheller started as like a branch off of Essie. Like she started somatic experiencing with Peter Levine. And
Mm-hmm.
and that really attends to like trauma and how that's trapped in the body from different memories. And like one example that has been huge for me lately is because I'm starting to put myself out there more and more, like it triggers like everything with the mother wound. um One specific memory is like, running up the stairs and um like saying like, oh, I got second place in this national youth art competition, and I was like 12 or something. And then my mom's response is always second place, never first.
Oh boy.
Things like that where you're like, or I wanted a membership at the YMCA to go with my friend to start working out. She's like, well, you're never going to use it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go every day for a month, and that was kind of the deal. And so I went every day for a month. And then same thing. I like ran up the stairs and was like, look, I went every single day for a month. And then like, instead of some sort of reward or like, congratulations, or you did it, it was just a like, well, shouldn't you be studying for your SATs instead?
Yeah.
So it was like, what is that called? The moving goalpost fallacy of like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a never reachable goal that just
Mm-hmm.
like, that feeling of rejection and shut down. It's like, imagine all of this energy waiting to come out and be celebrated and shared. And then like a complete like, and
Yeah.
so that is actually like the definition of trauma. It's not actually the event itself, but this packed energy here. And so somatic experiencing and attachment repatterning are like the main modalities that really helped me start to move that out of my system so that I wasn't just reacting the same way. My body wasn't habitually doing the same thing that like
Mm-hmm.
got caught in that loop in those moments. And then more recently, Sarah Payton's resonant language and unconscious contract work has been amazing. And she does relational neuroscience and family constellations. All of those modalities are like just have been a huge lifesaver.
Amazing. So if somebody wanted to use, say, somatic experiencing to help themselves heal, is it something you can do by yourself, or do you need to hire someone to help you to do that? How does that work?
Yeah, I think that you can learn basics and things. Like I have a course called Life is Art where I teach like the like regulation principles and like how to like pendulate between like a tough sensation and a pleasant one to actually digest that experience. And so I would say that falls under the category of like self-regulation in somatic
Mhm,
experiencing. And then
mhm,
when we have like trauma processing, that's when you're like really going even deeper. Like that's the first step so the body could even feel safe enough for us to go back and like into those memories or like, to not be re-traumatized all over again. And so I think that can be done definitely on our own at first.
mhm,
And then for the second part, I guess I would say usually it's done with the help of a practitioner just because, going back into those states by ourselves when we're very new to it, like we might just rock our system all over again and not really know how to make sense of it. And there's so much of learning like the body's six channels of knowing, like sensations, um, imagination, movement, emotions, meaning, and sound. So it's not just like the thoughts. It's like there's this whole world of language, and it really does help to have a guide, like kind of like asking you in those moments of freeze. Because when we're in freeze, we're like, this prefrontal cortex is not thinking. And
Mhm.
so it's pretty hard to do that on your own until you kind of like work with somebody for a while to like understand how to do it on our own.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That's great. What else did I want to ask you about that? I just kind of wanted to mirror back that I heard you saying with your mother, it was like I could see how that could lead to perfectionism for sure, especially the going every day, just to try and be good enough. And then the seeking approval too, like this image of you always running up the stairs to announce what you've done, and it's never good enough. And then also you mentioned the disorganized attachment style, which I also went through. That was exactly mine too. And that is also often characterized by fear of the caregiver.
Mm.
Did you have any of that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, yes, absolutely to perfectionism. Because you have to be perfect. Otherwise, you'll die. Like you'll lose connection. You'll feel it feels like abandonment in the body. And so, and definitely the fear, I think, because, like the disorganized is when we have like love coupled with extreme fear. And I think that is true because I would feel like I think it's created in my adult life this feeling like that the rug will always be pulled out from under me, whether it's like in relationship or money or business, and so absolutely there was like a lot of fear for not knowing when it would be a blow up or when, like because she was so on edge probably with all of my dad's stuff that I just got like I missed up a little bit, like I got
Mm-hmm.
all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so
Yeah.
frustrating because even if you are perfect, it's still not good enough. And I
Oh
hear
my
you
gosh,
when you
yeah.
say, I think you said like you were worried about the shoe's always going to drop or something like that. Is that how you described it? But just this
So
sense of
like the
always,
rug is going to be pulled out.
yes, the rug is going to be pulled out from under you. And that really forces us to lower our expectations or expect the worst, that kind of thing. It just really
Yeah.
changes the whole way that you operate in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's just, in my adult life, like that's constantly what I'm working on. Like I never in a million years thought that I'd be able to be on Instagram or doing a podcast or, hosting work like groups, online and stuff. And it's still something to work on. It's like the same feeling happens where it's like, even before today, our talk, it's like, yesterday was like so confident and so like everything. And then today I'm feeling like that same feeling of like, ooh, like all this energy, authenticity, like what I care about wants to come out, but almost like an assumption of rejection, like failure, and it's been interesting
Mhm.
looking at how my disorganized attachment in like with my inner child, like like the disorganized attachment was like with myself, with partners, and like in my business. It's like I'd be
Mm,
trying to put myself out there, and at that exact moment it's like I just actually want to hold up and like freeze for days or weeks,
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The push-pull of wanting something so badly and being scared of it at the same time is so familiar to myself, and I'm sure a lot of people watching. And the fact that it comes out in all your relationships, including the ones with your business. So interesting. And there's so much hope here because you say even getting on Instagram was a big thing. And now you have a very large following, to say the least. That's where I found you, and you're kind of a leader in this space there. So it just gives people hope
You.
to see where you are now is not where you're going to end up if you do this work. So thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So where are you now on this mother wound healing journey?
Yeah, so I went through that phase that we started kind of doing nonviolent communication, and she started being more reflective about how she was back then. And more recently, I think, my dad's aging and he had cancer a few years after her. And so he has all his health stuff. And I think that she probably feels really alone and like overwhelmed with everything. And for me this year, my dog just died. And it's been um me really learning like sometimes we don't all have the capacity to be what everybody needs, right? And here I am with my grief with my baby, and she's got to be with her grief of like what's happening with my dad aging and facing probably all those fears of being alone. And there was like another huge blowout where there were words exchanged that for me and where I'm at right now in my healing journey, just like I have to draw a line and a boundary for my healing right now. And yeah, there was like a huge phase that like of like videos that I made that went viral of my mom, and I being closer and having like nonviolent communication as our connection. But right now I made it clear that like, I can be here in these ways. I can provide an ear, I can provide a vacation, like if she wants to visit me, but
Mhm.
I will no longer suppress my voice and my no at home around my dad. I will no longer not be authentic in order to make her feel less alone. And that was like kind of our last exchange. And I don't know how she's sitting with it all. And, um, like for me, it was sort of me drawing the boundary of like, I'm not your practitioner. I cannot anymore be your therapist. I can't keep teaching. And I've found her SE practitioners and people that I think she might want to work with, but the ball's in her court. Like that's for if she wants to do that, like absolutely. But for me and my healing right now, I need space, and I'm on like even a deeper layer of kind of like deconditioning a lot more. It's like a lot more that was like underneath the surface that really does affect me right now. Um,
Mhm.
so that's where I'm at, is like really, really like Sarah Payton talks about how every single cell of our prefrontal cortex contains our mother. And so it's like I thought like I could just like delete her from my psyche, but it's not that easy.
Yeah.
And so I'm more doing the really deep somatic work to heal the layers of like epigenetic, like passed down trauma, and
Mhm.
also like how her broken perception of me lives in me. Like, kind of like how like she needed to see me as worthless, stupid, helpless, all these things that she made me out to be, so that
Mhm.
she could feel needed, so that she could, so that I would always need her, right? And so that's like often the perception then that the child sees themselves as like helpless, broken, useless. And so I'm in that layer of like releasing those unconscious contracts that I made in order to stay loyal to her so that I can now move forward with my life and thrive and actually be my own person rather than
Mhm.
what she projected of what she needed me to be.
Oh, yeah, that's so important to, write our own story of who we are instead of just replaying what we were told about ourselves. That is
Yeah,
just so vital.
right.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tammy. This has been an incredible conversation. And I love how you use your experience to illustrate to us, how we can heal these things, what's possible. It's very inspiring, and I greatly appreciate you helping us with that. And before we sign off, do you have any last words that you wanted to impart to the audience?
Um, let's any last words? I guess in my healing journey of like healing the father wound and the mother wound, I've found how I've like found wholeness in myself is like really looking at my attachment style, but from three different angles of, oh, how do I create secure attachment with my inner child? Like, how do I show up with secure behaviors? So, for example, when I put a workshop out and like I hear crickets and nobody wants to attend, like instead of like pulling it off the website and holding up and being like, I quit everything, which is abandoning my inner child, I'm like, well, I'm going to show up anyway. I'm going to show up and record it myself, maybe. And that's me
Mhm.
showing up for secure. So I'm already starting to repattern that. And then I started looking at okay, in what ways do I not have secure attachment with God or goddess? And also realizing that my disorganized was there also. It's like as much as I like felt like God would hold me, I feared that God would punish me. And so started to heal the layers of that. And then I also started learning how to create secure attachment with the people in my lives who are in my life who were willing to see me as me. And so that kind of became like there's like my three tenets of wholeness is like secure attachment with self, God, and others. And I think maybe that's kind of what I want. The last thing I want to say is like, we don't hold it all alone. Like it's trauma healing, and the healing journey is not like, let me just like do these set of tools and then one day I'll be worthy of love. It's like we are wired to be in connection now, and there's like all of these different layers of it. And that's really what my work is inspired by. So yeah, just you don't have to hold it all alone, and we're not supposed to, probably.
Oh, what a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thank you so much, Laura.